Today we're going to talk about how we can compare numbers that are written in scientific notation. In order to do this comparison, we are going to start by looking at the exponents on the powers of 10 in our numbers. The larger exponent of the two will tell us which number is bigger. However, if the powers of 10 have the same exponent, then we are going to move to the coefficients of our two numbers. So let's do a couple of examples together. Let's start with 5 2/10 times 10 to the 5th and compare that to 9 4/10 times 10 to the 4th. Now if we want to write these numbers out in standard form, the first number would be 520,000 and the second number would be 94,000. So we could multiply these numbers out to do our comparison. However, we can just come up here and look at the exponent on our 10 to the on our power of 10. And here we have an exponent of 5, but on this one we only have an exponent of 4. So right away, that's going to tell us that we're multiplying 5.2 by 10 5 times as opposed to 4. So the 5 2/10 times 10 to the 5th would be our larger of the two numbers. Sometimes, however, we have those cases where the power of 10 has the same exponent. Well, in this case, we can't just look at that. We have to look at the coefficient. And the coefficient is the number that we're multiplying by the power of 10. So we can just, in this case, just compare 8 7/10 to 8 8/10. And we know that 8 8/10 is just a little bit larger than 8.7. So we know that 8.7 times 10 to the 9th is less than 8.8 times 10 to the 9th. So again, we first look at the exponent on our power of 10. If the exponent is the same on both, then we will go to the coefficient. Sometimes we're asked to tell how many times larger one number is than another. And in scientific notation, we have to look at a couple of items. We're first going to compare the coefficients by using division. And then we are going to compare the powers of 10 using our division rules for powers. And in the end, we will multiply the results of the two. So for example, if we are asked how much greater is 6 times 10 to the 5th than 2 times 10 to the 3rd, we're going to start with a comparison of the coefficients. So we will compare 6 to 2 by using division. And we know that 6 divided by 2 is 3, or 6 is 3 times larger than 2. Then we're going to go to the powers of 10. And this goes back to some of our previous lessons on properties of exponents. We're going to compare 10 to the 5th power to 10 to the 3rd. And if you'll remember, that is the same as subtracting the exponents, 10 to the 5 minus 3, or 10 squared. So then we can bring this all together and take our 3, multiply that by 10 to the 2nd power. And we know that that's also the same as 3 times 100. So we can say that 6 times 10 to the 5th is 300 times bigger than 2 times 10 to the 3rd. Okay, so let's do that one more time. What if we have 8 4/10 times 10 to the 9th, and we want to compare that 2 1/10 times 10 to the 8th? Okay, again, start with the coefficients. Let's compare 8 4/10 to 2 1/10. And when we do that division, we know that 8.1 is 4 times bigger than 2.1. And then we'll compare 10 to the 9th to 10 to the 8th. And again, our properties of exponents tells us that we will subtract the exponents in this case, 10 to the 9 minus 8, which is 10 to the 1st, or just 10. So then we can take our 4, multiply it by our 10 to the first, and that's the same as 4 times 10, or 40. So we know that 4 to the 10th is 40 times larger than 2 and 1/10 times 10 to the 8th.